Cory, you said something really interesting last time I had you on the podcast that I'd love to get your updated take on now because it's been a couple years in, kind of hear what these guys have to say. You said, I need a reason to come back to a barbecue restaurant every week. I don't know of any barbecue place that I've ever gone to that I can go back and have a different flavor or taste. I don't want brisket every week. I'm trying to give you something new, something different, something fun, but also have our standard menu. That's what made us. Hey there, Omaha. Welcome into another episode of Restaurant Hoppen. I'm your host, Dan Hoppen, and there's just something primal and satisfying about cooking meat over a fire. Like, even going back millennia, like, this is just something that man has always wanted to do. And I think whether you're a professional or you are a complete novice, hand raised on that one, like, you want to grill, you want to smoke. There's something about that. And what's special about my three guests tonight is they all had that desire, but they were able to take it from a hobby to a profession and serve amazing food, which they're doing to our guests live tonight, and you can get it in any of their restaurants. Let's give it up for Cory Fuller, Brady Hess, and James Hawk. All right, so to get started here, I just would, because we got multiple voices, I want to introduce you guys' concepts. If you could go one by one, just introduce yourself and give maybe like a 30 to 60 second pitch on your restaurant or food truck. James, starting with you.
Yeah, my name's James. I own Jay's Smokehouse Barbecue. We started about 2021. My dream was just cooking meat over fire, just like you said. Brought out the primal mate in me, and I just loved it ever since then. So that's what we're here for.
I'm Brady Hess with Lazy Buffalo Barbecue in Blackstone. Just been doing this kind of for a long time too, professionally for a lot less time. We kind of do a little fun spin on barbecue with sandwiches and stuff like that too. And we're 9 months old now. Yeah, so we're babies.
I'm Cory Fuller with Pulled Barbecue Omaha, and we were formerly a restaurant in Rockbrook Village. We started actually as a food truck originally. We have recently, in the last few months, actually gone back to our roots, back to a food truck and catering business there, and we're operating out of Trucks and Taps at 108th and Q. And for me, it kind of started as a hobby. Everybody kept wanting to come over to our place or have me do the meats and spreads for everybody. And then during COVID, my wife is a nurse, and so we decided to start before the business even started, we were taking out full trays of food out to the hospitals and fire stations and whatnot to try to help them out, people through COVID, and that's kind of how this was all born.
So let's get into that thought a little bit, because you guys, when you started smoking meats and really getting into this, you all had other jobs. This was not your full-time thing at all. And yet you made time for this, and we're just like, there's something about this where I don't just want to do this on the weekends or at night or whatever. I want to really dive into this and understand barbecue is not something that you can just hop online and grab a recipe and all of a sudden you're making killer ribs or brisket. What was it that pulled you guys into smoking meats and really getting into the science of the craft?
For me, it was not being good at it at first. So I'm like, I got to get good at this. And that was kind of what drove me, and kind of just went from there. So it's just keep getting better and better and better. And when you have something like that, you keep fighting for it. And that's where the love comes from.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I mean, you waste enough money on good meat, you start getting really good at it. But then, just the process of it, it's not just tossing in the oven, and nothing against that, but the process of it, of monitoring the smoke and keeping your temperatures correct, there's something very rewarding and fulfilling about that to me.
Yeah. It's always actually been a lot of fun. That's the number one thing, has to be fun. And the other part of it being fun is the people's reaction once all of what you've done, all of what you've crafted, that you've worked towards, that you've had, whether it's months or years of experience going up to it, just seeing the reward on people afterwards there. And so for me, it was like I said, I loved it, and we came up with a whole different concept because I didn't want to compete with Jay's regarding brisket, so we did all pulled meats.
Yeah, and it's kind of like, my mom was the first one who was like, God dang, that pulled pork was really good, and that's when I'm like, all right, I'm doing something right. So
Now, you guys both mentioned being bad at smoking meats originally. A lot of people would say that they might try their hand at it and say, okay, this isn't for me. I just spent a lot of money on this brisket. I totally torched it. Maybe this is just outside my skill set. I don't have the time. I don't have the money to do this. You guys went the opposite direction. We're like, no, screw it. I'm going to conquer this thing. What gives you that attitude?
I think it's just how I was raised.
Yeah.
I don't like to lose, so that's about it
You
for
weren't
me.
going to lose to the meat?
No. Can't let the meat beat me.
There's definitely a little bit of stubbornness involved. I feel like cooking barbecue, you're just, nope, not going to mess this up again. Not going to, I'll sit out here and make sure nothing's flaring up or until it's right.
For me, it was I had some of my friends. One was a KCBS judge, and another buddy of mine was a chef, and he did a lot of barbecue as well. And he would always tell me that white guys can't do barbecue, And so I lived in Kansas City for a few years and just got to real love it down there. And so I had to eventually. We always would compete back and forth, and I sucked originally too. I really tried to come forth and eventually just became a love.
Yeah, for me, even ribs. I didn't cook a good slab of ribs until I actually opened our restaurant. We didn't serve ribs when we first opened, so I got my ribs down after I opened. So it's pretty interesting.
Was that in response to customers just being like, hey, where are the ribs? I need the ribs. And then you're like, oh, shoot, I got to figure this out?
Not really. It's more we didn't have a lot on the menu. We just started with pork and brisket, and that was it when we were at the karate school and then our food truck. So I wanted to explore something different to give people some different options and spread out that way.
Well, as the guest taste tonight, you've figured out ribs. You've got something good going with those ribs.
Thank you.
Corey, I think we've got a sequel to the movie White Men Can't Jump. White Men Can't Barbecue. Starring these three guys. So let's get into the kind of the flipping of the switch in your mind, where you go from I need to conquer this smoking meats thing to okay, I'm starting to get kind of good at this. I'm getting some really good feedback from people. This is fun. This is exciting. At what point does the thought of maybe I could do this professionally, when does that enter your brain?
Man, for me, it was just my mom saying it was really good, and I'm like, well, maybe I can do something with this. And it was during COVID. I worked at a dealership during COVID, and we slowed down, so I needed a hobby. And then from there, I was like, I didn't want to do that job anymore. So anything I could go and start a new career doing, I was gonna do. And at that time, I was really good at barbecue, so that was kind of my hobby that I started during COVID and got good at it. And that's why we opened our food truck.
Yeah, I had I'd always been in the restaurant industry and was front of the house, bartending and everything, and just still always had a fascination with the kitchen. I doing front of the house stuff when I was at Colbert Cafe. Ended up starting to smoke their meats because he knew I was interested in that and do it at home and for friends and stuff. And then we started doing pop-ups, and then that was when it was after we did a few pop-ups was like, okay, it's not just my friends after 6 beers telling me that the ribs are good or whatever. It's people that I don't even know that are kind of rolling their eyes back in their head and having a good time, and that kind of made me be like, this could be a real thing.
My story is kind of different. I sell real estate full time, and I would do a lot of catering for clients of mine. Just bringing them out, or having them do a full spread for them when they close on a house or something like that. And everybody just kept saying the same thing: "Man, you need to do something with this." And honestly, at the time, I really didn't have a desire to do something with it. We talked when we first did our first podcast together, and but my son actually loved the restaurant business as well, and so for me it was I used to be in the restaurant business, and so I thought it was we thought it'd be a way to have a secondary income channel, but also to work with my boy and move forward. And eventually it blossomed, and so I'm just super gracious because of that.
Now, there's a big difference between smoking a couple racks of ribs and a brisket, for your buddies on a weekend or something on a Saturday, and that's your whole day, versus, okay, now we're opening a restaurant and we might feed, a couple hundred people today. Like, your operation has to be completely different. What was it like for you guys scaling up and figuring out the logistics of, okay, I can't just perfectly smoke a couple racks of ribs. I got to perfectly smoke potentially 40, 50 racks of ribs today. What was that like for you guys?
It's probably the hardest part is scaling. When you're cooking briskets, you're cooking whole. We cook whole packer briskets, so each one's going to be done at different times. I'll pull one off, wrap it, and then that'll be done, a lot quicker than all the other ones. So scaling is probably the hardest part when it comes to like craft barbecue, just because you're cooking so much of it at once, and it's not all going to be done at the same time. So you got to sit there and watch each individual cut of meat and wait till it's done. Wait till it feels right. Coming off the smoker, you could be there, 8 hours. You could be there 12 hours. It's just a matter of when it gets done. So
it's that right feel. To go back to that question, the leisure side of smoking goes out the window when you open up a business. It's not sitting on a chair and having a beer or whatever. But like scaling and finding the pars was a big deal for us in the very beginning. And because it's not, we ran out of hamburger patties, we can just go, throw those together. If you run out of barbecue, you run out of barbecue. But I keep agreeing with you, but we're all in the same boat. So finding the correct pars and working with kind of the neighborhood atmosphere and figuring that out.
The pars being understanding how much food needs to be cooked, so you're not cooking way too much and then losing product because it's not selling, versus, oh no, we sold out in an hour and now we have a bunch of lost revenue. Finding those pars for different days of the week, weekends, times of the year, seasons, can be very, very difficult.
It's always a guess. Yeah. Kind of.
Well,
Yeah.
educated guess.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, it's what I found there is, kind of like Jay said as well, is, you go from to all of a sudden now you're good at home, then all of a sudden now you're trying to produce a bunch of it, and then all of a sudden now you're not good again, and so you've got to figure out how to, not get back to there and get that consistent product every time, and it's so hard with not only all of the different sizes of whatever the meats are, but also with where they're located on the smoker, how your smoker, does for temperature as well, where, your hot spots, your cold spots, et cetera. And, it was definitely the hardest part for us is going from, doing great stuff and, maybe doing, a few pork butts or, beef chuck rolls at one time, to all of a sudden doing 300 pounds of pork butts at one time, and it was definitely a learning curve.
Yeah, the more you put on your smoker, the more it changes the temperature and how the bark sets and everything too. That was a big thing that I learned is if you put 18 briskets on a smoker, their bark's not going to set the right way as if you have one brisket on there, because the moisture in the smoker changes, and the more meat you have in there, the more moisture you have. So that was a big learning curve too, is just getting that bark right, because that's the most important part of the brisket, I think, is that nice salty, peppery, sticky bark.
Now, you said something at the beginning of your answer that I want to hit on, because one of my first podcast guests that I ever had on the show, way back in, I want to say it was 2019 or even early 2020, was that man sitting right there, Blaine Hunter. He's the owner of Porky Butts Barbecue. And he said something, he told me about the feel, and you guys mentioned the feel. And I think, in our heads, like, so many recipes are just like, oh, you cook a burger patty for 3 minutes on one side, flip it 3 minutes on the other side, whatever, you're done. So you set it and forget it. But it's not like that with barbecue, because every cut of meat, you can have two briskets, they could be widely different in size, in texture and amount of fat they have. The way that Blaine described to me is animals are like humans. Like if you took me, a skin and bones, nothing, versus a 300-pound offensive lineman, we would cook and eat a lot differently, which is kind of a morbid way of thinking about it, but it's also like really accurate, and it kind of opened my eyes. How did you guys develop the feel where it's not, it's not saying, okay, I smoked my ribs for 10 hours at 425 or whatever, but it's saying, okay, I've got kind of my parameters, but I need to go in and I need to be touching these. I need to know when they're done based off feel. How did you develop that?
That came with kind of time. At first, I was going by temperature, and I would have super inconsistent quality of each brisket that I cut into, and I'm like, what is going on? This brisket was the same temperature as this brisket, and I'm like, so it's a lot of trial and error for us. And it's nice being surrounded by people like Blaine and listening to these other barbecue podcasts because we get tips from things that they say on those podcasts. So it's like, all right, they go by feel. Let me try that. So a lot of it's just trial and error. I mean, to be honest.
Yeah, doing it 1,000 times and touching it 1,000 times, and knowing that we're not doing brisket at the moment, but I said I don't temp ribs anymore either. It's the feel, it's the flop, and I just doing that over and over and over again, and finally being like, all right, this is where I'm good. Even like chicken is the same way too. Of I know exactly now. That's by look now for me. Of like I know what it's going to look like on the outside. It's good to go, and it's moist and it's not dried out, and not undercooked, obviously, as well. So yeah.
Like when I first started, or before I even started this whole thing, Blaine's restaurant's right down the street from me, and it's always been one of my absolute favorites. Period. And I knew him in the business, and then also he told me also to go talk to I think it was him, talk to Wayne Dingus over at Smoke and Barrel, and so I just talked with both of them, and really was able to go from being an amateur way of thinking to like a pro. And a lot of it, even like Blaine said, it was feel. Even with something as simple as a pork butt, it is feel. I mean, if you can temp it, but when you have it to where you're able to push into it, it's moist all the way through, and you pull that bone just a tad there, and you see it wants to kind of all flex around, and then you're like, okay, it's done, but I've got to get it done now. I mean, because then if you go even longer, she'll go right back. I mean, what I've noticed with the barbecue, you usually only have about a 5 to 10 degree variance of your temperatures to where you can still accomplish the same quality, the bend in the ribs. There's nothing more rewarding than taking a brisket and coming in the middle and watching it go like this, or holding it and jiggle it around, or taking a beautiful rack of ribs and putting right in the middle and watching it bend around you. I mean, when I grew up, everybody's like, "Oh, I want to fall off the bone ribs." I'm like, growing up, I thought that was it. And it's not. That's overdone mush.
Texture.
Yeah, but some people prefer that. But
they do. Some do.
It's supposed to be pull off the bone. Yeah, right.
But yeah, that's true. And it's like, and the hint I got, when I was cooking early is I would probe each cut of meat, and it would all be the same temperature and ready to pull off, but you don't get the bend out of it. And I'm like, why is this one bendy? This one's not. And that's where I kind of learned every cut is different. It's got different fat content. It renders differently. When that fat's rendered is when it gets the bend. That's the whole goal, is to render this fat slowly over smoke. And I've had a lot come out that weren't done yet, and they're a little undercooked. Which in barbecue, it's fine to be undercooked. It's just it's a little tight. It's not as juicy and fall off the bone and fall apart. So,
and it also depends a lot on the quality of cut you get.
Correct.
Like you were saying, it was like not only with the meats, but the amount of fat. Well, it's also the density of the meat as well. But the marbling is a huge difference. I mean, that's why when we do our pulled beef, everybody comes and like, "What do you guys do brisket?" I'm like, "Well, no, I leave that to the pros." I said, "But what we do is my concept's all pulled meat." And so we actually went from doing a brisket, because when you do a brisket and you pull it afterwards, it dries up a lot quicker. I found that like we use a prime grade chuck roll, and actually that the way that's marbled all the way through there, you can again you get the feel, but when you're pulling that actually the moisture, the fat content is more through the whole entire thing versus one long strip going and around the sides, and so the cut of meat that you're working with, and also the quality of it as well.
Yeah, it gives you the fat kind of gives you a little buffer. The more intramuscular fat that the meat has, the better off it's going to be in the end, and that's just because you have a little bit more of a buffer. That time that you said you got 5 to 10 minutes to pull it off the smoker until it dries up and it gets overcooked. So that fat, that intramuscular fat, really helps with that. So if you overcook it a little bit, it's still going to be pretty juicy, just because that intramuscular fat's still there.
You guys have mentioned that you had some opportunities to get some advice from professionals here around town, and I think that the Omaha barbecue community is pretty supportive and helps each other. But at the same time, you guys did not go down to Texas and train under pitmasters and work those pits for hours and hours like some people have. You on some level were very self-taught, and you kind of had to do trial and error to learn that feel. How do you feel like that has influenced your style of barbecue versus somebody who spent 15 years working the pits for somebody else and then opened their own place?
It's our own money. It's our,
That's a very good point. Yeah.
It's not someone else's product that you're ruining. It's your own.
You're not playing with house money.
Yeah, you buy a $80 brisket and you ruin it. I mean, you're
kicking yourself.
Yeah.
Repeat the question again, I guess.
How do you think your style is influenced by the fact that you're kind of self-taught versus learning everything from someone else?
Thank you. I think it's kind of going back to, there's no one way to the waterfall. Everyone's going to do it different, and didn't get a lot of other than just reading books and YouTube and stuff like that, talking to my dad, asking questions to other people a little bit too, but never formally trained, so there was no correct way to do things. It was my way and what I thought was right and what I thought people would like. So,
well, style wise, I always, when I grew up, I'm a big Chiefs fan. I've always loved Kansas City. I've had many miserable years as a Chiefs fan, but
you don't get to complain anymore.
I know, and I'm loving not complaining. It's pretty great.
Any suffering you had early in your life has been replaced these last 6 or 7 years.
No more Elvis Gerback
I remember those days too.
But I guess the reason why I'm bringing up Kansas City is because everybody likes also different styles of barbecue, and so I always growing up liking some of the sweeter, liking some of the not necessarily the Texas style where it's just salt, pepper, and garlic. As I still like that a lot, but I'm saying my preference was always like the Kansas City style. And so with that, the guys around here were very, very supportive. But it was trying to come up with something that I could do and not alienate half the people. And that's what's so tough about the barbecue business. You could produce the best Texas-style barbecue brisket. It's like Blaine does over there. You could go in there, and I'm telling you right now, some of the best darn brisket you ever had. And but it's Texas style. And if I want a Carolina style or a Georgia, or a Kansas City, I might not think it's wonderful. Just as in somebody that likes Texas style might come in and try ours and say, well, this is garbage, even though I might have produced the best Kansas City style that there is. And so, it was really just, wanting to take the style that I liked and put it forward, but also do it without trying to alienate the half of everybody else.
Do you guys feel that tension as well?
A little bit. We tried to mend, a little bit of Texas style, a little bit of Kansas City, or Eastern Texas style. With our ribs, at least, we do a little bit of like a sweet sauce. We wrap it in. We wrap our ribs in, but we season them with salt and pepper only. So we try to kind of mend both styles just a little bit. You know, our brisket is Texas style. You know, it's just salt and pepper, smoke, some beef tallow. That's about it. Pork butts the same way, just salt and pepper, some apple cider vinegar, and that's it. So,
Yeah, keeping it pretty simple like that too is don't need to reinvent the wheel. I mean, is more about the smoke and the level of smoke and the balance of that smoke that you want is most important to me.
The quality of smoke.
Yeah. When you start putting other stuff in your rubs, I feel like you don't get the salt and pepper that you want in each bite. You know, it kind of spreads it all out. You know, you get the paprika, the garlic, and everything, and that kind of takes away from the salt and pepper, I feel like. But that's just my preference, and barbecue is subjective. So
Paprika is more just for color for me. You know, I don't even want really people to taste it that much either.
Yep.
We do use a lot of garlic though.
it doesn't taste that good. Paprika does not taste that good.
Yeah.
Well, it's like ours. I mean, I kind of went the opposite direction, where I actually wanted to have some of the sweeterness, some of the sugar, some of the brown sugars, and even the sauces. I wanted very some Kansas City style sauces. And so my house sauce is actually, if you go down to Slaps down in Kansas City, that's the one place in Kansas City I could say that our sauce is probably the most like.
Slaps is awesome.
Oh, and I love Slaps. Yeah. I mean, their place is absolutely amazing. But with us, like Kansas City, people are like, oh well, the meat should do the talking, and I couldn't agree more. The meat's got to be quality. I mean, you could put all the sauce in you want, but if the meat's not great, all you're doing is you're basically masking. You're covering up, covering up something that's not very good. But my goal was always to have the best, make the best meat I could, but also then complement it with the best sauces and sweeter rubs as well, just to give a whole, I guess, a different variety, a different angle of flavors, because I think like ours, we have 8 different sauces, and we've got an Alabama white, we've got a Carolina mustard, we've got our Kansas City styles, we've got a Tennessee red, and so we have these sauces from all different regions, and I don't want to bring one out unless I know that it's gonna hold with. You don't ever bring a sauce out just to bring a sauce out, But myself, I want, if I'm wanting a Carolina style, for instance, I want to do a pulled pork and smoked ham and some Carolina mustard on there, and and nail that thing. But if I want a pure Texas style brisket, you're darn right. I'm going by the rub itself,
Cory, you said something really interesting last time I had you on the podcast that I'd love to get your updated take on now, because it's been a couple years in, kind of hear what these guys have to say. You said, I need a reason to come back to a barbecue restaurant every week. I don't know of any barbecue place that I've ever gone to that I can go back and have a different flavor or taste. I don't want brisket every week. I'm trying to give you something new, something different, something fun, but also have our standard menu. That's what made us. And I wanted to get you guys' takes on this, because you all offer specials all the time, whether it's a barbecue Philly, whether it's you guys have had all kinds of different sandwiches, gumbos. I mean, you have a different deviled egg all the time. Cory, you guys are constantly running a Philly or a bison sandwich or different things. What is the importance, especially in barbecue restaurants, in having specials?
I think in this area in Omaha, it's super important, because nobody's going to come out and eat barbecue every other day or even once a week. It's pretty rich, and barbecue is not a huge culture here in Omaha. I don't feel like it's starting to be, but I don't think it's quite there yet to where you can just open straight up and just serve brisket, ribs, pork, and be successful. I think you really have to get creative with your menu and take some, Mexican influence, all sorts of different Asian inspired, all sorts of stuff, and include it in your menu, because that'll get people coming back. And we put our barbecue on tacos, all sorts of stuff. We do smash burgers. So we incorporated that because we realized nobody's going to want barbecue every week. It gets old. So
yeah, it's a it's a heavy food group, so yeah, it is kind of hard to eat it on a regular basis. But cooking wise, it's an opportunity to be creative, which is fulfilling for me. And then also just kind of doing weird stuff with traditionally smoked things, but kind of flipping it upside down.
Yeah.
And just I honestly just making it weird and making people kind of go, whoa, that doesn't.
Never heard of that before.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but all right. And then a big thing for us too is flipping family recipes and kind of putting my own twist on stuff that I grew up with or stuff that I loved. Doing nostalgic, fun little twists on things to keep people coming in and not just the same thing over and over again, because no one likes that. No. We probably don't even like that. I mean, I nibble at work, but I don't think I've had a full sandwich in the longest time.
Just little bites.
Yeah,
That's
make
right.
sure
It's all right.
things are good.
Well, you got to
yeah.
do the chef's task.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, real quick, go ahead and plug the taco event you guys have coming
yeah.
up. That's something new.
On the 26th of this month, we're going to start doing like Texas-style breakfast tacos, burritos.
That's a Sunday morning.
Yep. From 9 a.m. till whenever we sell out, but kind of traditional Rio Grande Valley, Texas. So your tacos aren't street taco, small. They're going to be larger, tortilla shells. And then, we're doing smoked pork with some of it chorizo, doing like a cornbread, biscuits and gravy, cornbread and gravy. Just kind of a fun ode to that style, because there's plenty of breakfast burritos in Omaha, but I don't think anyone's really doing the true traditional, kind of like that region of Texas kind of doing that. So we'll see how that goes. I think it's going to be fun. Very limited menu. Script Town next door will have Bloody Marys, mimosas, ranch waters, and all of their beers too. So could be a fun little morning.
I got a chance to come out and try one of these tacos the last time I was in. You all should be taking out your phones and like putting a reminder in the phone right now that you want to be at Script Town on the 26th, because these tacos are legit.
Yeah, we're excited. It's going to be fun. I've been thinking about that for a while, and finally now is just the time where I'm like, okay, I can actually put all my focus into this right now to make it right, make it solid. Yeah.
So I want to talk about getting weird with smoked meats, because both you guys, when Brady said that, like a smile came to your face and it was like, yeah, that's the fun stuff. I would love for all of you to give me an example of a time where you did that, where you had a crazy idea. I mean, it doesn't even have to be crazy, but you had an idea that was a little outside the box, and you were like, what if I did this? And then it came out and it was successful. Give me an example of that.
For me, I was working lunch one day, and I had a little bit of brisket left over on my cutting board. I wanted to chop it up and see if I could, because we did smash burgers at that point. So I wanted to make it into a patty and see if I could make a smash burger out of already smoked beef. And it worked actually pretty well. But then I had another idea with, what if I chopped the rib meat up, off the bone, and made it into a patty and then made a McRib. So that turned out really good. And that was probably one of the most creative things we've came up with so far.
It's a lot of it is kind of finding what you have and need to go through and being creative with it that way. And then just seeing something at a store and going, or Depot or wherever, and just kind of going, I'm going to buy one of these. I'm going to give it a shot. We had our take on, pardon my French, but SHIT on a shingle. With
You're allowed to say it.
Okay.
It's okay. This is a mature.
We cook barbecue, man. We can say what we want.
Yeah. But which is also something that I grew up with in my household. That it was just chipped beef and stuff back then. But it wasn't something that I just came up with. But we did brisket instead, poached egg. I think it was actually a rib meat gravy too. And that was, as soon as we posted it, we were getting people that were calling about it, and I think that sold out in about, I don't know, hour and a half after we opened. But just, yeah, that was kind of weird, but it had been something I've been thinking about for a long time. And, yeah, just on Texas toast. It was fun.
Sounds good.
You can ask my wife. My mind is not controllable. It's just going every direction at all times, and I'll be, when you and I sat down first, I said, I want to have something to where give you a new reason to come back every time, do something fun, something different, and so I've always just, my mind, if I think, okay, well, Asian wise, how to work with that, Mexican wise, and so created some just absolutely just weird off the wall things. I think my craziest one was we called it the Oinkzilla. We took a pulled pork and we basically made it into a giant patty, and then we breaded it in cornmeal and also frost or cornflakes and crumbled it all around. We breaded it in that, and it's got some other stuff in there as well. But we fried that, and then afterwards we took our pulled pork itself, flash fried that, put that on top of there. So you had basically it was a good 2/3 pound type thing, and it was called the Oinkzilla for a reason. And it had 3 different kinds of pork all on there, and it was my employees were just like, okay, can you stop selling these, because I don't want to prep these things anymore. So they didn't. That was one of my dream sandwiches, and it didn't make the regular menu because of that.
Did you pull the food truck up next to the hospital that day so people could just eat the sandwich and then just a short distance to go get taken care of?
Yeah, cardiac arrest.
Every sandwich comes with a defibrillator.
Yeah.
Well, my wife is a nurse, and so.
Oh, well, there you go. Just have her on hand. Yeah.
She's on standby.
Exactly. She's more on kick-by for me.
Something that I love about you guys is I feel like you represent kind of the wave of change we've seen in the Omaha barbecue scene. I think if you go back a decade, it was pretty bleak here when it came to smoke meats. I think, that started to change probably, I think 2016 is when Wayne opened Smoke and Barrel. 2019, I believe, is when Porky Butts opened, or 2019, 2020, somewhere in that range. So I think that's when the wheels really started turning, and we started to see like legit barbecue restaurants pop up in Omaha. How did seeing the scene kind of grow and evolve empower you guys to make you say, hey, maybe there is an appetite for like legit barbecue in this city?
Well, I just wanted to be a part of it. Blaine, started it in 2019. I'm sure he loves us bringing up his name so much. But no, I mean, he comes out with so many specials every week, and it inspires other barbecue restaurants to want to do the same thing, just because it's so different. And you don't see that, in a lot of barbecue restaurants. So, ode to Porky Butts. I mean, that's what kind of inspires us to keep these cool specials coming and stuff.
That we'll be eating for free over at Porky Butts here for the next month.
Yeah, I mean, Porky Butts is definitely an OG. That was probably an inspiration to all of us. And there's opportunity, and I don't know, I get excited to keep seeing stuff. And I think the guys from Dirty Birds, they hosted a barbecue pop-up there, and just to see more. And everyone does it different for the most part, or does the same thing differently. It's exciting. And I mean, Omaha has so many great restaurants, and to see the barbecue kind of keep getting up there is pretty cool. Yeah. And I fully support it. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really wanted to focus on making barbecue fun. Fun as in just you're looking forward to what they're going to come out with next, But if they come out with it, it's got to be good. I mean, there's so many specials I haven't done just because I haven't quite gotten it to where I wanted to do it. I mean, we wouldn't release a Carolina mustard. I held that back for 6 months because I wanted to do my Cuban. And everyone's like, when do you do your Cuban? And I wanted to do it so bad, but I have not got my Carolina mustard down. So it was almost 6 months of trying to get that sauce down just to do that. But seeing like Wayne Dingus over at Smoke and Barrel, I mean, he would come out with this his corned beef, his Reuben, and really take Reuben and throw it into a barbecue sense, and then, of course, like say, Blaine would do what was that burger you did? Wasn't it called the Blaine? Something like that, but yes, it was insane. So those things kind of inspired me because I knew I could do barbecue, but I wanted to do it fun. I wanted to not just, do like the old school. I wanted to be part of, a new school, to where, okay, now we're coming up with new ideas, fusion style. Maybe we turn it on a carnitas and do a chimichanga with it, come out with we do pulled corned beef. We do a whole corned beef Reuben menu when it comes. That's my favorite time of year for us anyway, because I can't eat enough of it. But it was like when Blaine and Wayne both started off, just doing some fun specials, a lot of neat things. That was I think really what kind of got me thinking to try to make barbecue fun again.
Yeah.
Let's help out the barbecue warriors in the crowd tonight. If there are people who are, they've just started, or they're kind of amateur smokers, but they're looking to get into it, they're looking to up their game, what's a tip that you would give them to help them out?
Throw away your temperature gauges. No, you can use it to still probe to see if it's, tender in the middle. Try to go by feel. If your brisket's coming out tough, you're probably not cooking it long enough. If your ribs are coming out tough, you're probably not cooking it long enough. So cook it until it bends. That would be probably my number one tip.
Yeah, patience. Patience, even if it's a quick 4 or 5 hour smoke on ribs or poultry like a turkey breast or something. I would start off something like that is kind of like, okay, this is 3 hours, but it's 3 hours that I need to be fully, you can't really set it and forget it, depending on what kind of smoker you have, I guess, too. But I would say that, and I said just kind of trial and error, and just trust yourself, and then stop looking.
Yeah.
Don't open the door. Don't open the door. Yeah, and just kind of trust that, and you'll get to understand like fire management and all that stuff too, or and just controlling that and keeping an eye on that, and then it'll start to get easier, and you'll go, oh, I can go inside and sit down and watch part of a football game, or do whatever you want to do, and kind of have a better feel knowing that log is going to burn for this long, or things are good for a little bit. Go hang out with your kid or have a beer, do whatever you want to do. So,
my main thing is don't get frustrated.
Yeah.
Every one of us, everybody that's ever been anything in barbecue has screwed up. How many of you have screwed up many briskets before you even started? Before you finally got it down. And
Yes.
Last week.
Yeah, right, exactly. I still don't have it down, but no.
Yeah.
It's okay to screw up, but learn from it. Okay, what happened here? Just start maybe documenting what you're doing, down. So therefore, next time, okay, these are my notes to remember for next time. Also, don't start with trying to do a brisket. Just don't. Learn the smoking bar. Start in a pork butt.
Yeah.
That's probably one of the most forgiving things there are out there.
And it's only $20.
Exactly. Yes. You can get it for like $2.25 a pound versus
If you can get a pork butt down, you can probably cook a brisket just fine. It's just.
But you want to get that pork butt down first, and you don't just immediately get a pork butt down either. It's when you're talking about your crusting, your flavoring. There's there's so many different things that you can do to quote unquote screw it up. So anytime you screw something up, just understand and use that as a document that and say, okay, now next time,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, don't beat yourself up and
No.
say, I can't do this. Just try again. Look up online maybe how you can do it better and just keep getting better.
YouTube's your best friend.
YouTube's here.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What's the future of barbecue as you guys see it? What are some trends coming up on the horizon that you're keeping your eye on?
I'm not sure.
We don't have to go in this order every time.
Yeah,
I don't
you
want to put the
guys-
pressure on James where he feels like he has to answer first every time.
I was actually kind of glad that you were sitting in first on that one.
You guys can jump in and
That's a tough one. I see a lot more barbecue places incorporating burgers and all this other stuff. I think that's kind of the trend of barbecue restaurants is they're not just going to be offering just barbecue. You can get a lot of other stuff too.
And I think because restaurants are very crazy right now with inflation and everything else too, it's expensive. So if you're doing something, you better do it right. But like you said, offering kind of some other things I would say we're kind of barbecue mixed with Midwest comfort food, and then a little touch of Cajun in there too on specials and gumbo and stuff. But yeah, just having something else there that is not just the same old thing that everyone sees is important, and you kind of you have to right now. I feel like to make everybody happy.
Well, I think what we're doing right now is the future of what barbecue is. I mean, because right now we're trying to consistently also either reinvent the wheel or be inspired by something else. I mean, I remember when you first came out with those cranberry ribs, and I'm like, oh my God, I mean, I thought of it, but then you think back, okay, well, what else can I do with
What other
ribs,
fruits?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, then so I think what we're doing actually right now is, and again, started from. I won't say the OGs, because of the OGs, I would go back way back when you you talk about the what was the one that was still around that burnt down on Ames, Big Jim's, Big Jim's, and it's amazing, and then there was the other one that was there's some great old school barbecue places, but I think what both Porky Butts and what Smoke and Barrel and some of the newer ones are doing is actually now what we're all trying to do is basically the future. Try to consistently reinvent yourself, but stay true to your roots, but also try to enhance it for other reasons. And like I said, like I told you, I wanted to give you a different reason to come in every 2 weeks.
I think something that I feel like I've been seeing more often is like the transforming of different meats. So not taking brisket and putting it in a taco or a burrito or in a different sandwich, but actually like changing the constitution of what it is, chopping up ribs, making them into a burger patty, and then serving that. Brady, you guys had a special where you took rib meat and mixed it with pulled pork and pimento cheese for a grilled cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
Is that something that we'll start to see more and more of, where we're not just taking meat that's finished and putting it into different vessels, but we're like actually transforming? You still get the flavor, you still get the smoke, you get everything, but we're transforming what that meat is into something really very different.
Yeah, I think so, and why not? If someone enjoys it, I'm almost more humbled when someone just wants a sandwich by itself without any of the other stuff on it too, because I'm like, you just want to taste the meat, and that's kind of cool. But I'm not going to yuck anybody else's yum too. Of if you enjoy it, and we can provide it and do fun, crazy, different stuff as a vessel for that protein, for that smoked meat, then I just keep going from there, and the different ideas come about, and then you see other people doing cool stuff, and it inspires you, and it just kind of keeps rolling from there.
Yeah, with me, I just get bored. Cooking the same stuff. I got to do something different with it. I get bored, so.
Yeah, no, I want to, whenever we do a special, I want the reaction to be, wow. And for the longest time, whenever we did the special, the reaction was always like, you are a dumbass if you don't put this in the regular menu. And I'm like, every special we do, you got to understand, number one, we have a small kitchen. And number two, if we would have a menu like over at Cheesecake Factory, you know, and if you start doing too much at one time, you can lose your focus on the main parts. But so yeah, I mean, like we did pulled pork mac and cheese balls, you know, and those were breaded in frosted flakes and cornbread, and they were ridiculous, and that we got a huge following for those. It was something just, you know, off the wall. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is when you're able to do a special, you move it forward, and like your one with, you know, pimento, and it's mind blowing. But I mean, but you know, something like that, when the person comes up and all of a sudden they have that reaction that you were shooting for, there's nothing more rewarding. You know, there's nothing more rewarding.
Can I ask a question really fast?
Yeah.
Have you guys ever done a special where you're like, crap, I shouldn't have done that? Because it was super labor intensive, and people like it. Like they said, they want to, put that on the menu, or are you going to have more tomorrow? And it's like, God, it took me forever to do that.
Yeah.
But I have.
Absolutely.
Like,
almost every single one we do.
Dadgummit, yeah.
But, you know, it's like...
It's hard being good.
You know, you said something right. You said something like everybody wants you to add it to your menu. It's like the McRib, like our take on the McRib. And it's just something we can't because that we don't always have, you know, that rib meat, you know. And I don't want to specifically cook ribs just for that sandwich. And so, it, you know, when you want to add stuff to your regular menu, you just got to be prepared for it.
Well, the other interesting appeal of the McRib, it's not actually good, but people get it. I guess. Sorry if I'm offending anyone. The McRib sucks, but people go crazy about it because it's only available at certain times, and it gets taken away.
Yeah.
So when they see that it's coming back, it's like, oh, I'm going to McDonald's. So that can be the same thing for you guys. If somebody misses out on, you know, one of the rib burgers or a certain deviled egg or something like that, and you say, well, this is going to be coming back, watch our social media, followers go up, interest goes up, and then if you do decide, okay, I'm going to torture myself, I'm going to release that special today, you know people are going to come out because they missed out. I mean, you saw the reaction even tonight, me just listing off the components of that pimento grilled cheese. Everybody kind of perked up and they were like, wait a second, when's that coming back? I think that there's something to that is if you put everything on your menu, yes, it makes it harder because you have to produce all that, but then also there's not kind of that anticipation of when might I see that thing again, that thing that I either got to taste or I saw pictures of it and heard other people rave about it. I didn't get it, but I need it now. I guess I didn't really have a question there. You guys are just all nodding.
We agree.
It's more exciting for us too. That way of like, if we're doing the same thing over and over again, it's you kind of get sick of it, or maybe lose a little bit of why you liked it so much in the first place. So it is nice for even the cooks to come back and go, I want to revisit this later because that was fun and people were excited about it versus just doing it day in, day out.
Well, yeah, and like the. Like it's fun when you want to. It's always fun you wanting to bring back something, and all of a sudden you get a little line at the door, but is anticipating it. But by doing different specials all the time and having the same reactions every time, they almost can't wait for your next special now. You know, and that's when it really gets fun. Is all of a sudden, okay, well, what are they going to do next? You know,
that's a Block 16 model, right?
Yeah, they're perfect at it. Yeah, that's. I think when I told you, I said I wanted to be the Block 16 of barbecue.
Yeah,
you know, and that was with all. You know, and again, I'll never even achieve that. But I mean,
we won't even touch that level.
No. But that was
lot.
Yeah. Oh, they're incredible. But the thing is what I meant by that is by constantly bringing out something new, something crazy, and you know, I remember that they had this. It was like a lobster mac and cheese thing they did one time, and we live all the way out by 156th and Blondo, and we drove all the way downtown to get that. And I mean, it was it's like driving from my place to Orsi's to get pizza. You know, we've got great pizza all over, but I gotta have my Orsi's.
All right, I want to get you guys out of here on this question. we talked about your love for smoking meats originally, how you got into this. How has your relationship with barbecue changed now that it's your profession versus it's a hobby?
Oh, well, I'll save you on this one because I'll go first. How has it changed? It's the pride part of it is really what's the most fulfilling, and when I'm not talking arrogance, I'm talking pride, but you could be proud of what you did, be proud that the drive that you had for something that turned into more people wanting it, turned into satisfied people wanting to talk about you on social media, talked about. So I guess it's, for me, how it changed. I mean, it's, I always loved doing things for people and making them happy, but this year it turns also now it's almost a passion to do it. And, it turns it, the part is you don't want to turn it just into the only business mindset, because we started not with the business mindset. We started by screwing things up and doing things, and so now you want to get back to the fun mindset. And I know for a while I got in a rut, and I wasn't fun for a while either. So why is it fun? Why is it fun? It's because of the internal pride that you have because of everybody else, coming on board, loving it, and just reinvent yourself that way. Keep just constantly reinvent yourself, but understand where you came from.
I just think, 35 now, like if you told me I was 10 years old and I'd make a career out of starting fires for a living, legally, it is every day. And I don't get sick of that smell. Like going home, my girlfriend might get sick of that smell every once in a while, but still going home and smelling like smoke. You're looking at your wife.
Yeah. I look back at my wife there. She's like, oh yeah, you smell like barbecue.
But I still love it. That sound of wood crackling, that makes my kind of hair stand up right now. I love it. And, that's what keeps you coming back, even though you go home. Because it's physically demanding, and it is mentally too. It's not baking. I cannot mentally comprehend that, but it's a lot of hard work. But it is very rewarding. Like going back to what I said earlier, it is the process that is fulfilling to me. And then at the end of the day, it's just making people happy. I don't care. Drench everything in sauce, do what you want, but if you're happy, then I'm happy, and we're all happy,
Yeah. It's making people happy. It is. I went through a little hunch too. You get tired of doing the same thing over and over again, and I kind of go back to the specials. That kind of helps me continue to find the love in this. So, a lot of times we come out with specials. It's not always just for, the customers to come in and eat it. It's also for us, because we want to kind of break away from the traditional brisket, ribs, pork, because you get tired of it. And that's just the truth. And cooking in your backyard is way different than, cooking 30 slabs a day, and you really got to find that mental strength to just break through the repetition portion of it, because the repetition is really what just dumbs it, kind of
dials you in.
Yeah, and it's just you get bored of the repetition sometimes, but you got to find the things that originally made you fall in love with it, and that's like what you said, the fire crackling, up at 3 a.m. in the morning when it's 5 degrees out and your only heat source is that smoker. There's something awesome about it. I could stand out by my smoker all day at 0 degrees and just be happy as can be.
I did 2 nights ago.
Yeah, I did this morning. No, it's, you just go back to what made you fall in love with it to begin with, and that's what just keeps you going.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to say thank you to you guys for pushing through and for not only figuring out how to smoke meat, developing that feel, but then opening a restaurant and figuring out how to cook at scale and dealing with idiot customers and making new specials all the time. Like, thank you for doing what you do. You have 3 fantastic restaurants. I mean, you guys tasted their food tonight. If you're watching or listening to this, go to one of their places. Jay's Smokehouse, Lazy Buffalo BBQ, Pulled Barbecue. You're going to get some fantastic meats. Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for coming on the show tonight.
Thank you, Dan.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless.
Omaha, as always, thanks for eating with us.